Hi, welcome to the gun room. It's a buoyant place today because we've had a couple of wins. With me is Jay, normally on the podcast, and up in the top corner there where Mitch normally is. You might thought Mitch might have lost his hair or something. No, it's John Mc Nicoll, the author and mad Man United fan. John has written a book called An Ode to 442, which deals with the formation, the most successful teams to employ that formation. John, tell us about the new book, An Ode to the Chosen Few, Football's Piano Players, on Pitch Publishing.
Yeah, so basically I did my first book and it was about teams, that had played the 4-4-2 formation and had gained success, think, Arsenal, George Graham, Arsene Wenger, sort of before Wenger veered off to stranger times of 4-4-2-3-1, etc. Alex Ferguson, there's a lot of teams, sort of older teams as well, Nottingham Forest under Brian Clough. So I did teams in the first book, and then decided in the second book I'd go more towards players. But I've sort of chosen players that what you would say sort of in the football's piano players is sort of more players that have helped teams to glory, whether it be keeping them in a division for so many years or winning trophies. I asked you, Tom, for a segment on Thierry Henry, because I truly believe that although Arsenal had a really strong team in that sort of 6-7 years, he was the catalyst behind everything that Arsenal did. If they were struggling, drawing, or losing, he would grab the game by the scruff of the neck and score 2 goals and turn it on its head, etc. So it's a bit like when Eric Cantona come to Manchester United. We hadn't won the league for 26 years. We'd come close, we couldn't quite get over the line, and then within 5 years we'd won 2 doubles and he was at the center of everything. So it's sort of you've got your Messis, your Ronaldos, which are your obvious ones, Maradona, sort of players that Maradona went to Napoli and Napoli had never won a title in their history, and he won 2. So it's sort of along them sort of lines, really. It's a bit subjective because I've got players in there that some people might think, well, what about him and what about him? He was good, but like I say, it's horses for courses, really.
When's it out, John? Is it August?
August 15th, yeah.
And it's on Pitch Publishing.
Yeah, it's on Pitch Publishing, Amazon, so you can go on and pre-order now. August is when
get the plug in. Got to.
That's it. Yeah, exactly that.
Right, let's we're going to bore you a little bit now because we're going to back tread to the Chelsea game, John, but we'd appreciate your input as well. Jay, it was a fabulous result at Stamford Bridge. What did you make of that performance? A bit out of the blue, wasn't it? Because we were all sort of depressed and fed up and not looking forward to the game.
No, nobody expected that result. Like you said, absolutely fantastic in the end. I thought we started quite sloppy. We were quite careless in possession and giving the ball away. But to be fair, we persisted with it and it paid off in the end. And I mean, we all wanted to see a change up front, and obviously Eddie took his chance, didn't he? Especially in that first half. Well, I think he was superb all the way through, but I loved his first goal. That lovely finish where he put across the defender and put it in the corner. And
just losing your sound, Jay, a little bit. Just losing your sound.
All right. You two have a chat. I'll try and get it sorted.
It was a spectacular result for us, and we were talking in the podcast, John, saying out of the next 3 games how many points we needed, and I felt we needed 7. So to hit the ground running at Stamford Bridge and actually get those points in the bag, it was incredible. Now here's the thing: they said that Chelsea were poor. But Arsenal showed real appetite. I hate it when the media do this because they're really biased and they kind of say, well, that was a really poor Chelsea team. There were 2 defenders missing and all that sort of thing. John, did you see it?
I did watch the game. Yeah, I'll say I was away on my honeymoon and managed to blag a couple of hours in the bar.
You're not supposed to be watching telly on your honeymoon, mate. You're supposed to be doing other things.
Yeah, well, we stumbled across the bar, and then obviously with the time difference, it was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And as we walked in, it was just as Arsenal had scored their first goal. So I sort of said, "Oh, we'll watch this, and then we'll get about our day." But no, I was surprised. Probably like say you two were probably fearing the worst, but hoping for the best. But I thought they played really well. They let Chelsea back in the game when they scored a couple of goals. I thought, this could turn on its head now. And then they sort of just put the afterburners on. He made a couple of good substitutions, which I thought sort of changed the game and sort of bit fresh legs and got them going again. And yeah, as I say, they did look good, which obviously made me think, oh God, it's going to be a tough old gig on Saturday, which obviously it proved to be, because in the first 15-20 minutes you absolutely just blew us away in that sort of swagger that you had in parts of the Chelsea game. But no, I mean, you can. I know what you're saying. It is if you have a win against a team that's up there, the press will say, well, they've had an off day. They haven't got this, know him. But they won't say, well, Arsenal have gone away to Stamford Bridge, which is probably not notoriously a great ground to go and get a result in a derby, especially, the sort of fluctuating form you've been in the last 2 or 3 seasons, and obviously walk out with 3 points. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it was. We were talking on the podcast, and I said, if we're going to do this, we normally do the impossible. When it's like mundane games that you think you're going to win, you don't do it. But when you get these games that are almost impossible, it's up against it, we seem to turn it round. It's really weird. Jay, now Nketiah has gone some way to surely breaking through after a bit of a promising performance. Are you with us? I think we might have lost him again.
You hear me?
I can hear you. You're a bit echoey, but I can hear you. John, I'm coming back to you. If Nketiah was in the Chelsea side, would you, the Man United side, would you give him a run out?
I haven't seen enough of him to say whether I would or not. I mean, I know that I've been reading there's contract talks, and he's not on about signing a new deal, but then I've also read that his game time's been quite limited, and it's only been the last 3 or 4 games he's sort of had a bit of a run in the side. So I couldn't really say. I've seen him in a couple of League Cup games when he's looked okay, but I suppose unless you play him in 10-15 games on a run, you're never really going to know. So it's probably not really fair on the lad for me to sort of make an opinion on him. But I'd imagine if he hasn't signed a new contract by now, he's probably got 1 foot out the door.
Yeah, I think we were looking to sort of replace Lacazette in the Chelsea and United game, because he's just gone off the boil. What he was giving you was a little bit of physicality. He was kind of deep, really, for a striker. But the fact is that he's on the wane, I think. He hasn't scored since, I think it was December last year. So we've been looking for an edge. We got rid of Aubameyang, and we had to change things around. To be honest, I haven't been convinced by him. I've seen him a good few times. I think we were in the cup against Sunderland, and he got a hat-trick. There's just something, he's not physical enough for me. He doesn't kind of deliver. I'm used to Thierry Henry and these type of people who come in, they've got some physicality, some presence. Ian Wright used to be like that for Arsenal. So, yeah, I'm not really that sure about him. Anyway, John, did you see the Saka penalty? Do you think it was the right decision? He was bundled over by Azpilicueta. Kind of give him some sort of hug and a rest.
Yeah, no, I think that was nailed on. I couldn't see anything wrong with that. It's frustrating because you get a lot of decisions that are like that, and a bit like the Tellez one. It was similar. Like you sort of, they've come together. Tellez has sort of bundled him over in the United game, and it's been given. But you can almost guarantee that a carbon copy will happen on Saturday, and nothing will be given. The referee will say it's a coming together, play on. And I think that, and sort of going back to the officiating at the moment, is what's the frustrating part is just the consistency is just way out of key. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's dreadful. Jay, you back with us?
I think so. Can you hear me all right?
Hey, yeah, we're on.
Yeah.
Jay, you've missed a little bit, but we're towards the end of the Chelsea match now. Who was your man of the match, and did you have a goal of the match?
Man of the match. I think probably. I thought, you know what? I love seeing Saka rolling that penalty. At the end. I suppose banish some of the demons from the summer. So I thought Nketiah did well, but just wanted to, just got to give it to Saka just for stepping up, putting that penalty away. And I tell you what, I don't know if you two mentioned it, but maybe me and Tom appreciate it a little bit more. But I thought the away fans, that away end on TV, you could hear them, and some great pictures. It's one of the away grounds that I've never been to, Chelsea, and I mean, it looked great in there, didn't it? And great scene. So yeah, I give it to Saka for me.
Mine went to, unusually enough, it went to Xhaka. I thought his work rate was really good. We'll talk about El Neni and Xhaka in the second match. But for me, the move of the match was Smith Rowe's goal. It was a real team effort. I loved that.
Yeah, I think that was the best. That was, in my opinion, the best goal. It was just a great finish as well. A nice, calm side foot finish into the bottom corner after a good break. So, but yeah,
you rewind it. Xhaka nutmegs Marcus Alonso, doesn't he? Right on the edge of our own box. And you're right, Xhaka did play well, and he's really stepped up recently. And yeah, that was a lovely goal. But just for me personally, that Saka penalty, just you could tell that I think he needed to get it out of his system a little bit, So yeah, great win. To be fair, massive surprise. It
really did set us up as well to go into the United match. And let's move on to the United match now. I've got some stats here somewhere. What have I done with my glasses? Oh, it's really all kicking off, isn't it? Right, team stats: 14 shots for Arsenal, 14 shots for Manchester United, 7 shots on target for Arsenal, 5 for Man United, 55% of possession for Arsenal, 45% of possession for Man United. As I say, I was in a pub in Dover. John was on his honeymoon. Where were you, Jay, watching this match?
I was actually getting a tattoo. I was watching it with no sound, and it was when we scored,
probably not a bad thing sometimes to watch it with no sound, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, when Nuno scored, I had to do my very best not to jump up, and then obviously when there was the incident with the disallowed goal and then penalty, I think because I didn't have any sound on my phone because it was quite loud in there. I didn't really know what was going on. But again, I mean, like most people have sort of over the age of 30, Arsenal Man U's always it's a huge fixture with great history, and it's one we all look forward to still, isn't it? And it doesn't matter if it's home or away, it still brings back great memories. And although the teams might not be where they once were, still like a huge game for most. And it lived up to the hype, didn't it? It was a good game. Don't get me wrong. Nerves and one last remaining hair was pulled out. Especially in the second half. But it could have gone either way. And we were just. I mean, it was just good that. So vital for us, that we got the 3 points. Because we've set us up for the weekend, didn't it? And Spurs dropping points.
As we were saying earlier before we came on, it's not had that sort of intensity and that special place in our hearts over recent years, because our teams have all. I think we're on a similar level, aren't we? We're kind of rebuilding, trying to find our glory again. Let's just talk about the game. John, what did you make of it? For me, it was for a change. It was an exciting match to watch.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look, you've read the stats out, and bar the 5% possession difference, the shots on target are pretty similar. And if you've just a man on the street who's just walked in and flicked the news on and saw Arsenal 3, Manchester United 1, you're probably thinking, well, that's a a pretty dominant win by Arsenal. But unless you actually sit and watch the drama unfold for sort of 65 minutes until Xhaka has pinged one in the bottom corner to make it 3-1, it really was on a sort of a tipping point, especially with us sort of around the penalty time. We were really banging on the door. But in relation to what Jay was saying about not having any sound and not knowing what was going on with the penalty for the VAR for the second goal, well, I had sound on and I still didn't know what was going on because, I won't repeat what the words were because there was quite a few profanities. But when the goal was disallowed for offside, I sort of jumped up and was gesticulating to the TV as if to say, like, have a bit of that, let's go. It's still only 1-0. And then all of a sudden they're rewinding it back for the penalty, which they were obviously desperate to give. So, it was sort of like a bittersweet sort of 2 minutes for me. But it sort of goes to show that with the VAR, it's like, where does it start? Where does it stop? No one actually knows what is actually going on, whether you've got sound on or not at the moment. And unfortunately for us, it resulted in a penalty, which again, Saka stroked into the bottom corner for 2 games in a row.
It really was a game, something for everyone, wasn't it? And that's what I loved about it as well. It was the unpredictability of football, and you're watching it live. And I've got to be honest, when I was watching it in real time, I didn't quite sort of get the vibe of some of the decisions. And I've gone through them since, subsequently reviewed them and changed my opinion on a few. So let's talk about some of those decisions. Tavares' goal, I've got no problem with that. Great delivery and strike from Saka into the box, and Tavares just touched it in. Then you had the Elanga penalty claim, the first one. Not enough for me. How did you see it, John?
I'd say no, but I've seen them given. And yep. I think, in especially this day and age, if you go down with sort of a finger on your back, you're giving a official a chance. And if some of these referees go over to the pitch side monitor and they'll watch it 10 times before they make a decision. But you must know, seeing it once or twice, what you're going to do. You don't need to keep watching it. But no, it wasn't enough for me. I think I think if he'd have carried on his run, he probably could have, shot on target and maybe scored, but decided to go down. And unfortunately, it was nothing was given. But yeah, that was obviously the first one.
I don't know much about Elanga. Is he from the academy?
Yeah, he's a Swedish lad that's been in the academy for a few years. I'm not a bit sort of what you was talking about Nketiah. I'm not massively convinced about him at the moment. I hope he proves me wrong, and in 3 or 4 years' time, he scored 100 goals and he's the best thing since sliced bread. But I was speaking to a fella the other day who was a Man United fan, and I've got this really sinking feeling he's going to be the next Adnan Januzaj, who burst through when we was having a really bad season, a bit similar to now under Van Gaal, and there was nothing really to sing about. And this lad come through, scored a couple of goals, and he was an academy prospect, and everyone made a song about him, jumped up and down. And then 2 years later, he was sent on his way to Sunderland. And I've just got this sort of sinking feeling that we've had a bit of a rubbish since Christmas. They've made a song about him. He scored a couple of goals and now he hasn't scored for ages. And I don't know, I've just think maybe history might repeat itself, and in 2 or 3 years' time, he'll be rocking up at West Brom or something. But I like to say, hopefully I'm proved wrong.
Right then, let's move on to the Cedric handball. Jay, accidental or deliberate? Was it a scoop, or was it he was just trying to touch himself onto the ground?
I mean, it's a penalty, isn't it? It's a penalty, and if it was at the other end and one of the United defenders did it, we'd all be screaming for a penalty. So for me, I was shocked it wasn't given. I've seen some of the sort of reasoning afterwards. I still think it's a penalty, and I think it was harsh. But obviously, we've had our fair share of bad decisions, so you're going to take it, aren't you? But it was, for me, absolute stonewall.
Well, I saw it again this morning. I had another look at it because it's one of those ones where you think, oh, yeah, well, they might have a point there. Or no, he did actually scoop it. And I've come to the decision, he scooped it. John, what was your opinion?
I think the more infuriating thing for me was not the fact that the penalty wasn't given, was the fact that they never even went to VAR, and Sky never showed a replay of it for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And I just thought, why is that? Why are they not revisiting that? Like, it didn't go over and have a look. They just said, oh, penalty check complete, done. And that was the end of it. They never showed a replay of it at half time. Like, just, it was, but look, you know, like you say, if it's for your team, you're absolutely jumping up and down, going mad. And if it's against your team, you're like, cool, we've got away with one there. Yeah. But I think the main highlight, I spoke to someone about it earlier, actually, who was an Arsenal fan. I'm sort of, you know, I've been watching football for over 30 years. And if someone put a gun to my head and said, what is the handball rule or the offside rule, I honestly don't think I could tell them at the moment, because it changes. But I think it changes game to game. And again, you know, we're going back to officiating again. It's for that penalty that hasn't been given next week. It's someone's going to fall over on the ball and they're going to give it, you know, they're going to give a penalty away. And I don't think anyone actually knows the rules at the moment.
Yeah. What happened then? It was Dalot hit the woodwork, wasn't it? And Nketiah had a chance straight into the arms of De Gea. And Nketiah offside, but a penalty for Saka, as we were saying. Telles stomped on Saka and pushed him over. 32nd minute. For me, it was a penalty. It was offside as well, but the penalty seemed to take priority. What annoyed me was the amount of time it took.
Yeah, for me, that was a pen. It was a penalty, like you said. It shouldn't have taken that long. I think everybody could see straight away. You know, and Nketiah was offside, and Saka did get ploughed through the back. So for me, that was yeah, pretty easy decision to make, to be honest. But like I say, I was in a tattoo shop with blaring music. I didn't have a clue what was going on. But
what did you have done, by the way? Let's have a look.
Oh no,
as long as it's clean.
It's not healed yet. So
right, okay. After that, it was a traumatic week for Ronaldo, bless him. He got his 100th Premier League goal, 34 minutes. The script was kind of written for that, wasn't it? They moaned a little bit later on about him not taking a penalty, but I'm not surprised. Are you, John?
Yeah, I'm a bit confused about the whole penalty situation, because he's taken a couple this season and scored, and Bruno's taken a couple and missed. So yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure what the penalty scenario is and why they've keep chopping and changing. I'm a good believer in, if your penalty taker's your penalty taker, and that's the end of it, you know. And but yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a terrible week for anyone to go through, whether it be a footballer or the man on the street. But yeah, you know, it sort of, yeah, I guess he was, if anyone was going to score after something like that happening, it was definitely going to be him, wasn't it?
What a class act, though, as well, because you have to maintain that focus and that professionalism. And he was on fire. If they could have got the ball to him certain instances earlier, I think he would have done more damage. But he's always a threat. It doesn't matter how old he is. He could be playing till he's about 47, I reckon. Then we had the handball by Tavares. It was a heads on, wasn't it, eh?
I mean, you know, it's sort of going back to the handball rule earlier, because they were saying last season it wouldn't have been given because of the distance the ball's travelled from Matic's header back to Tavares with his hand in the air. But yet, you know, would it have been no? Because his hand was up sort of, you know, and they say if it's in an unnatural position, it should be a penalty. But again, that will happen in the next 2 or 3 weeks and will not be given.
Yeah. 100%. I think that the Cedric penalty was more of a penalty than that one for me. I think it looks quite bad because his hand's there, but he's jumping to win the header, isn't he? And it just the Cedric, for me, the Cedric one was far more of a penalty.
I would imagine the referees probably looked back at the Cedric one at half time and thought, oh dear. As soon as that happened, went, yeah, you can have that one.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what fascinated me was the amount of time his hand was in the air. I mean, normally, as you jump up, your arm goes up, but it comes down quite quickly. Seemed to stay up there for about a week.
I mean, you're asking for trouble when you, as soon as you jump with your arm above sort of shoulder height in the box, when the ball's bouncing around, you know, if it hits it or not onto you, you're just asking for trouble. But I don't know why they do it, and they do it all the time.
Right, we've got a couple of quick ones. We're on the clock, unfortunately. We've got a couple of quick ones. The Xhaka goal, was it offside or was it all right? What did you make of it, Jay?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because you can see that De Gea has to sort of look round Nketiah, and is it Lindelof who's in front?
Yeah.
He has to sort of look round, and he is impeding his view. Again, these
what
are decisions.
About distance, Jay? Because of the distance, a problem with that?
Well, you could just argue you're either offside or you aren't, and you're either interfering or you aren't. And to me, again, I have got sympathy for United again in that situation, but like we've had so many of these situations go against us that you're just gonna, you're gonna take it again. It could have been ruled out, but I mean, a lovely goal from Xhaka, and De Gea, you can understand him being frustrated because he had to take a step, didn't he, to look round, and which left quite a bit of goal open to his left, because the Xhaka shot wasn't right in the corner, was it? It was sort of
No.
to the left. So yeah, I can understand United's frustrations again, to be honest.
John, one for you. The Fernandes tackle on Tavares, red card?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's clearly frustrated after the penalty miss, and he has done him there. It's a bit obviously, yeah, I'd say a red. It was a bit inexcusable, but El Neni did it not long after. It wasn't like a straight foot, it was more a flat foot about 5 minutes later. But the commentary I had on was there was Lee Dixon and Martin Keown in the studio, and obviously Lee Dixon was like, oh, Fernandes has got to go, it's disgusting, terrible tackle, which it could quite easily have been a red card. You see them given all the time. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But El Neni did it, but his was more flat foot, but stamp on after the ball had gone. And Lee Dixon's reply was, well, where's he supposed to put his foot once he's left the ground to tackle him? Which is sort of, a similar thing you could say to Fernandes, but Fernandes went straight, with a straight foot.
Just looked really ugly, didn't it? With
they always look worse in slow motion as well, unfortunately. But he was very lucky because you do see him given.
Yeah. Right. I thought for a bit of fun. Oh, by the way, Jay, who was your man of the match?
It's got to be El Neni. It's got to be putting a proper show, and it probably his best performance for the club. He was absolutely superb.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? As I'm saying, just as a bit of fun, what I thought we'd do is we'd kind of swap roles. John would look in a nutshell at Arsenal's predicament and how they're moving across and moving along. And we'd look at Man United. Now, we'll start first with Man United, and it's not going to be a massacre or anything. It's just like we've lost, between the pair of us, we've lost two irreplaceable managers. For United, I just think there's been, this probably applies to Arsenal as well, lack of direction, poor recruitment. You've spent over £1 billion, and it's kind of weird, isn't it? Because they don't actually dovetail any of those players. Darren Fletcher as technical director, what's going on there? I had to ask you that, John.
I don't know is the answer. I couldn't even tell you. I think it's
be better putting my cat in charge.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. Like I say, at the moment, the playing staff themselves aren't doing themselves any justice at the moment. But I think them upstairs are. I'm not really sure who's running what and who's in charge of what. It's depending on what newspaper you read, it's a different person making decisions. And I think until someone gets a grip of it all from top to bottom, I don't see it improving anytime soon, unfortunately.
Well, there's a couple of things myself and Jay will probably agree on in terms of United. Ollie got replaced by Rangnick. Why bother with that when you've got someone else there looking for someone else? It's like putting a plaster over something, isn't it? It's very short term.
Yeah, I don't believe he's been put in there as a manager per se. I genuinely think that they had someone in mind, whether it was Pochettino obviously Ten Hag, who's coming in the summer. And I think they had that in mind anyway, and they knew that they were going to get someone in the summer. But until then, I believe Rangnick's sole purpose, as opposed to, you know, trying to win football matches, is to find out what's going on in the changing room, what's going on a training ground, what's going on with the agents, who's saying what, etc. Because by all accounts, there's a bit of a dossier being handed to the new manager from Rangnick, which basically says these are the players that you can rely on. These ones are, you know, going to throw you under the bus. You know, and I don't think he was actually sent in to be a manager. I think he was sent in to do homework on what could be improved, what could go wrong, etc. Unfortunately, it's just at the detriment of sort of 6 months of turgid football, dressing room unrest, but then maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's him that's going to say, well, you know, we've got 3 or 4 players out of contract in the summer, which are quite high profile and big earners. They're going to be going. So it might be a case of him saying, well, look, you're better off without them, and this is how you can improve. So all will be revealed, I guess.
Jay, do you feel there's parallels between Arsenal and Man United's sort of positions, the way everything's gone wrong behind the scenes, and it's just a catalogue of errors, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they're where we were, I would say, 18 months to 2 years ago. They need quite a large clear out. I think they've done quite well appointing Ten Hag. I think he's going to make them, you know, it's much more of a long-term plan, isn't it, rather than a quick fix with the managers that they've Man United have appointed recently. And I think they're going to be, it's more of a project now, like we're in the middle of, or infancy of, whichever way you want to look at it. So yeah, slightly different approach from United now, and I expect them to kick on, and they're never going to be short of a penny or two, are they? They're going to be able to throw some cash at the squad. So Ten Hag's going to want his own players, and I think it's a slightly different approach from what we've seen for outsiders looking in at United, where they've just thrown large amounts of money at the squad and these big name managers, you know, or especially with Mourinho and Van Gaal and that. So yeah, I expect him to be much stronger going forward as of next season.
I'd like to get us all back together to discuss this in full length, because we've got just over a minute left. John, what do you make of the Arsenal setup, how it's gone?
Well, you're currently in your highest position post Wenger, providing you finish where you finish now. So I suppose you're on an upward curve. I mean, it's quite funny because you're in 4th position, but yet, like you said, you coming into the Chelsea game, you're a bit sort of, you know, haven't been playing well, etc., etc. But yet you managed to creep into the sort of the 4th spot, so to speak, at the moment. So I don't think everything's as bad as what, you know, maybe you're being a bit too hard on yourselves. There's a lot of other teams that wouldn't mind being in your position. It's mainly us, you know. But again, it's a case of, you know, you don't want to be labelled, oh, Arsenal are just happy to back in the Champions League again, like you sort of was at the end of the Wenger.
Guys, I've got to wrap it up. We're just about to get cut off in time, but I would love to get us all back together to discuss the ins and outs of